Here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, leaders and distinguished guests. The person you are waiting for is about to step on stage, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Please give him a big hand.
Thank you very much. Okay. February 24th could have marked the end of the world as we all know it. A world of rules. Rules that are meant to protect life. Our resistance, with the support of our partners, has put on hold the destruction of this system, a rules-based world order. 2024 must become a time for a full restoration of a rules-based world order. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not the rules that define the world's life should remain in the past, but rather such Russia that doesn't respect the rules should remain in the past. And we can ensure this, not just by doing something, but by doing everything necessary. The conference today represents different parts of the world and of course many nations. Among us, there is no one for whom the ongoing war in Europe does not pose a threat. This war defines more than just the place of Ukraine or entire Europe in the world. This is Russia's war against any rules at all. But how long? But how long will the world let Russia be like this? This is the main question today. The longer this Russian aggression against the rules-based world order continues, the greater are the changes it provokes. Perhaps people will have to live in a world where local wars will not remain local. Any outbreak of a war risks turning into a global catastrophe. Perhaps the weaponization of food or migration will break existing regional balances and undermine many political systems, not only in Europe, but also in the Middle East, in Africa, in the Americas. Perhaps Europe is facing times when the question of invoking Article 5 of the NATO treaty will not be a question for Washington at all, but rather for European capitals. There are hundreds of such perhaps. On February 23, 2022, none of them existed. Now they are a part of reality. And what we lack in this reality? Security, neither for the largest nor for the smallest state. We must make security a reality again. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to leave behind everything you value in your life in the world of yesterday? Ukrainians will not do it. This is our response. The year of 2024 demands your response from everyone in the world. If we do not act now, Putin will manage to make the next years catastrophic catastrophic for other nations as well. Intelligence community are aware of this. Ukraine has already shattered myths with which Russia tried to cloud reality and which the world unfortunately believed. The myth that Russia could capture another country in a few days or weeks whenever it wants. Ukrainians have been holding for 724 days. "724 days. Would you have believed 725 days ago that this was even possible?" We have demolished another insane Russian myth about Ukraine as supposedly not a real country. And it was in Russia that a massive mutiny began, leading to the capture of cities, internal fights, and an armed march on Moscow. This is a typical sign of a not a real state. We have ruined the myth that Russian weapons supposedly have some advantage over Western ones. In reality, Russia is worse in all respects. That's why, for the first time in Russian history, Putin bowed to Iran and North Korea for help. There was a myth that Europe is too weak to defend itself. Instead, Europe has become a global force, overcoming dependencies on Russia. Europe now demonstrates that our community deserves to be called Euro-Atlantic. There are two causes. Nearly 80 years of preventing a continental war in Europe relied on the strength of the American coast, and now we see that the European coast can also be the force that prevents chaos. Every defense coalition we have created proves this. Every security agreement we have signed implements it. We already have such an agreement with the UK, and I'm grateful for the security agreement with Germany that we signed it with Olaf in Berlin a day before, and we signed a security agreement between Ukraine and France with Emmanuel in Paris. And this is just the beginning of implementing agreements based on the G7's security declaration. We were told for a long time go to Putin so that he would allow the restoration of cargo movement in the Black Sea, in our Black Sea. But we did it without Putin. More than 23 million tons of cargo have been transported through the Black Sea and the Ukrainian export corridor. Since the beginning of this year, there is already normal shipment of goods to China, Spain, Egypt, Turkey, Italy, Pakistan, the Netherlands, Tunisia, Libya, and others. Some claimed that there is no effective defense against Russian missiles. And we know for sure, all of us, with Patriots and some other Western air defense systems, any Russian missile can be shut down. And if there are enough air defense systems in Ukraine, we will be able to bring home millions of Ukrainians, millions of our people, millions of our refugees. And thank you for your attitude in all your countries, for your attitude to our people. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. But I hope that they will come back. We will do everything for this. And of course, our economy will be able to regain independence from external support. Ukrainians have proven that we can force Russia to retreat and that we are capable of restoring the rules. And with this, we leave absolutely nothing of the key Russian myth, the myth that Ukraine supposedly cannot win this war. we can get our land back, and Putin can lose. And this has already happened more than once on the battlefield. Our actions are limited only by the sufficiency and length of the range of our strengths. But what does not depend on us? And Avdiivka situation proves this exactly. Dear friends, unfortunately, keeping Ukraine in the artificial deficit of weapons, particularly in deficit of artillery and long-range capabilities, allows Putin to adapt to the current intensity of the war. This self-weakening of democracy over time undermines our joint results. Russia has only one specific military advantage at this time, namely the complete devaluation of human life. Constant Russian meat assaults prove this. International tolerance of the lack of rule of law in Russia after 1991 and Putin's policy of controlled poverty have led to the fact that human life is worthless for the Russian state. In addition to this, Putin's years of self-isolation and his impunity have led to his complete degradation. Absolutely. He now openly justifies Hitler, absolving him of responsibility for World War II. And he has made the genocide of our people just an ordinary part of his policy. Putin kills whoever he wants, be it an opposition leader or anyone else who seems at the target exactly to him. After the murder of Alexei Navalny, it's absurd to perceive Putin as a supposedly legitimate head of a Russian state. And he is the thug who maintains power through corruption and violence, coming to his so-called inauguration, shaking his hand, considering him an equal means to disdain the very nature of political power. One may have different attitudes towards international institutions, but the International Criminal Court's warrant for Putin's arrest for kidnapping and forced deportation of children from Ukraine clearly demonstrates where Putin's so-called career should end. He has only two options ahead: to be in the dock in The Hague, or to be killed by one of his accomplices who are now killing for him. Destroying the source of wars and destabilizations in our key task, it is fair. First, we all must do not something but everything possible to defeat the aggressor. Please, everyone, remember that dictators do not go on vacation. Hatred knows no pause. Enemy artillery does not fall silent due to procedural issues. Warriors standing against the aggressor need sufficient strength. Second, we should not fear Putin's defeat. Putin is a threat to all free nations. And yes, for those who still haven't heard, Putin is the monster who invaded Ukraine and killed thousands and thousands of people and kidnapped and deported at least tens of thousands of Ukrainian children. But that's not all. Putin butchered Chechens and Syrians, invaded Georgia, ordered the execution of his opponents both outside the walls of the Kremlin and in the heart of London and Berlin. And yes, just yesterday he tried to send us all a clear message at the Munich Security Conference opened. Putin murdered another opposition leader. So please, Let's not fear Putin's defeat and the destruction of his regime. Let's instead work together to destroy what he stands for. It is his fate to lose, not the fate of the rules-based world order to vanish. If we don't defeat Putin now, it won't eventually matter who is the president of Russia, because every new Russian dictator will remember how to maintain power by annexing the lands of the peoples, killing opponents, and destroying the world order. If this happens, Europe, Central Asia, and the whole world will be a very dark place. Third, we must close all loopholes in the sanctions against Russia, and there should be no sectors of the Russian economy involved in this aggression that are still free for sanctions. This particularly relates to the nuclear sector. Also, Russian assets that are already frozen should be confiscated. And we need to go further, find, freeze, and securely pacify every dollar accumulated by Putin and his friends. Fourth, evil will never prevail if the forces of good are united and act together. History has proven it many, many times when empires of evil and tyranny, which seemed eternal, crumbled right in front of our eyes, and this increased the space of freedom in the world. And the bolder and more active America was, along with the others on the right side of history, the more successful freedom was. The world would have long been divided among the dreams of a few dictatorships if it was not the American dream which always left enough space for people dreams. Major decisions happening in unity of the whole world with the United States. And finally, fifth, Putin must be deprived of any ability to manipulate anyone in the world, to constrain the activity of the others. The world has a document that defines the basic rules of coexistence of nations, the Charter of the UN. Russia disregards it. Ukraine has offered the world a peace formula based on the principles and norms of the UN Charter. We have managed to unite representatives of all parts of the world to work on the peace formula and to develop details regarding the organization of the first Global Peace Summit. The summit is planned in Switzerland, and there the world must decide how to restore the full strength of the rule-based world order, almost destroyed by Russia. Please, do not ask Ukraine when the war will end. Ask yourself, why is Putin still able to continue it? I thank you very much for invitation. Thanks for attention and for very expression of support of our state, of course, of our people, our children, and please be grateful to our warriors, and may our world based on rules never become the world of yesterday. Slava Ukraini!
Mr. President, thank you for your speech. I am very pleased to be able to interview you for another 10 minutes, and then we will open it to questions for a small period of time after that from the distinguished guests. President has decided to speak in Ukrainian for the Q&A section, so everybody, headphones.
I thought that everybody decided to listen to me in Ukrainian, that's why
I think that is, but you know what, you're so good in English. If I can convince you to do this in English, I would be very happy.
We'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, crikey. All right. All right.
Okay.
Somebody tell me whether, is it number 1 in English? Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah?
Okay.
Well, maybe the number 1, but
you don't need it.
But I don't have translation.
No, but you don't need it, do you? It's just me.
Ah, I don't need it.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
you can take off your headphones.
Ah, yes, it's okay. Just, yeah. Okay.
Okay. You want these on?
I hope so.
Fine, whatever.
We'll see if it doesn't work, so I don't know. Okay. We can start then.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. Firstly, Mr. President, thank you for being here and for agreeing to talk to us in front of this audience and for CNN. I want to ask you first, you mentioned Avdiivka, and I would like to ask you first about the decision of your commanders to pull back. Your commander said, in a situation where the enemy is advancing on the corpses of their own soldiers with a 10-to-1 shell advantage under constant bombardment, this is the only correct solution. What do you expect to happen now?
Thank you very much for your question. It's a very logical and a fair one, and a professional decision to save as many Ukrainian lives. You hear interpretation, right? Well, it's possible to preserve the lives of our people, and for us.
It's okay.
Thank you. Carry on.
It's important for us to save the lives of our people. That's our main objective. We're saving our lives, our soldiers, because that's our defense. We're very grateful to our partners for any weapons, but clearly weapons can only help to bring back justice and peace in the territory of Ukraine. But first and foremost, as we all know, it's the man, it's the military man who has it in his arms. The military people, they liberate territories, they protect people, families, and that's a correct decision in order not to be surrounded. The decision has been made to move back to other lines. Russia has not seized anything. We have to understand that. After those 2 years of war, Russia has tried in the east of the country to do something. And what does it mean, do? They just destroyed several small villages and towns, but the most thing that they did, they destroyed our life. And that's why they understand that they are crazy about it, they are raging, they understand that they cannot be successful in their offensive, and since October they have been attacking this poor Avdiivka with all the armaments, with all the power that they had, with thousands of their soldiers who died, tens of dozens of thousands. That's what Russia has achieved. It's a depletion of their army, and I think that this is the task that our military people are doing every day, and while saving our lives. I think it's also a correct decision. Then reconstruction would come. We're just waiting for more weapons that we're short of. We are short of it, I'm telling you frankly. We don't have long-range weapons. Russia has it, and we have too little of that. That's true. That's why our main weapon today is our soldiers, our people, and we hope to have the support of our partners.
So A senior NATO official told the FT that it is a desperate situation for you on the front lines, far worse than you are actually admitting. Your commander said that one of the reasons that they pulled back was in just the last 24 hours, there were some 20 airstrikes, 150 different shells. He said they're trying to erase Avdiivka from the face of the earth. Do you think this will lead to a snowball of other towns and cities on the front lines collapsing? Or what do you expect for the next months and year?
Thank you for that question. Well, first of all, this is their tactics. They're destroying completely all the houses or the households, buildings, and then they're trying to move into certain areas. These are small villages or very small towns. And let me repeat it again, for which to seize them, it has taken them 2 years. What we expect to see what has been promised, what we have agreed upon, that we will be able to unblock the skies where the Russians have an advantage. As soon as we can do that, when they don't no longer control the sky. I think this is what I started at the Munich Conference 2 years ago, when I said that we need to work a little bit faster and to pay attention to the messages of Ukraine that has a lot of practice in this war. And that's why it is very important. I've been emphasizing this since the very first days of the war, to unblock the sky. We have started receiving, we're grateful to our partners, we've started receive the air defense systems, Patriot, NASAMS, and others, and we have too few of them. I'm not criticizing now, but we have too few of them in order to quickly move ahead. But the decision is very simple. Where we had our air defense systems, where at that time, people would come back. They would bring back the economy of a certain town or city. The city was practically protected. We have such cities. It's not very fair toward the other cities. We don't have priority lines here. It's just we're short of such systems. But where we had such systems of air defense, immediately Russia would move back because it would lose its aircraft. And I can tell you, well, I will not tell you exactly what we are using, but one of the latest examples, we destroyed 12 aircraft of the Russian Federation recently. So those systems will unblock the sky and will make it possible for our soldiers to move ahead. So you asked me what we're expecting if we have those systems and long-range weapons, because it's only an unfair war. It's unfair in general, but it's unfair in terms of the advantages. If you have artillery with a range of up to 20 kilometers and the Russian artillery has the range of up to 40 kilometers, that's the answer. A human being is fighting artillery. That's unfair, and that's not modern war ideology. We have to develop technology. We've started doing that. We have to develop to start building drones. I'm sure that what is positive for us and negative for Russia, we will be able to surprise them this year with our drone systems, with our radio electronic warfare systems. That's our domestic technologies, but that's just a parallel road that we're taking while we're expecting for assistance from our partners.
Mr. President, you said that with the will and with all the gear, you could win. I've been speaking to American generals, others who said you can win, but it depends on the will of politicians in your allied nations, in the United States and everywhere else. As you know, there is a stalling in the United States Congress. The Republican-led House will not address the huge weapons bill that the president is trying to get to you. Some of them may be here. What would you say to your Republican colleagues in the United States? Anybody who's blocking that bill?
Are we shown on TV now?
Yeah.
Then I won't.
What would you like to say if you
No, I will have meeting with senators today. I think we will have detailed speech with detail. They have to understand what's going on, and I think I don't want to push such message to United States because they did a lot for us. Did a lot. I see Nancy Pelosi. Thank you so much. We did together a lot. Thank you from our people, from all our hearts. Thank you so much. Just we have to work in one joint team. That is the answer. If Ukraine will be alone, you have to understand what will be. Russia will destroy us, destroy Baltic, destroy Poland, and they can do it. Yesterday I had very interesting, very useful, I think, dialogues with German government and also with France partners, and I said very clearly and very honestly, if you will remind that what was going on in Ukraine in 2014, our people been not ready for the war, for the quick occupation of Crimea, part of Donbass, and then during almost 8 years, people began to be ready for such aggression, not only with a weapon. It's not a question of weapon. You're ready psychologically. And to my mind, I think so. God bless you, will not have any attacks from Russia, but to my mind that in Europe there is no any nations for today who is ready for invasion, not because we are stronger or better, not of course, we are the same, with the same values, but we had this all these years, and your nations didn't have. And psychologically, and informationally, and in media, you didn't prepare your nations. Understanding why? Because nobody wants it. I mean, that's why. Senators have to understand only in unity we can win Russia, and they have to understand that we will win with them or not. We don't have any other way. We have only one land, our Ukraine. Yeah.
Mr. President, you are outmanned, and you always say this. There are a huge advantage in terms of numbers of Russian forces. There is a question of potentially you signing a law or changing the draft and the conscription and lowering the age from 27 to 25. Are you going to do that?
It's a comprehensive and complicated question. It's a question about how fair recruitment should be. And the most important issue is rotation of the people who are very tired at the front line physically. Any person, not only Ukraine, it doesn't really matter what nation you belong to. If you are tired, you have to go back, you have to be restored, and somebody else would replace you. Another professional soldier who has been trained during a certain period of time. And mobilization, recruitment depends on that also. How many people you have on the front, how many reserves you have, and why you need that.
Of brigades they began to translate me. Yeah, it's difficult. So for counteroffensive, you need another number of brigades. So the question of mobilization is a complicated thing. Yes, and but I can't share with you the number of victims and casualties. Yeah, but for example, if you will, when we speak that they have too much people, yeah, but you have to know, for example, in Avdiivka, I just comparing the number 1 to 7. It's a pity that but for one death of Ukrainians, 7 deaths of Russians, 1 to 7. So I'm not comparing this war, and I don't want, and it's tragedy even to lose one person, but we didn't begin it. So but you have to know, have to understand what was going on in this small city.
Mr. President, thank you very much for answering these questions. Now I'm going to throw it to the audience. Who would like to ask the first question? There's a question in the very back.
François Heisbourg, Mr. President, first of all, thank you very much for everything that you have said. I, as so many others in this room, haven't ceased to be impressed by the Ukrainians' ability to fight against incredible odds. Question is the following. Now, I'm a European, and which more or less means that I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. But I note that Donald Trump has not been to Ukraine since the war began. You have not met him since the war began. Do you think it would be a good idea to acquaint him with the situation in Ukraine by inviting him to Kiev?
I invited him publicly, but it depends on his, his wishes. And so, of course, we are ready, because all the candidates, you have to know, all the representatives of two parties, because we are really been thankful for bipartisan support. All of them, they know that we are very open, and we always wanted them to involve to information, real information, real war. And if Mr. Trump, if he will come, I'm ready even to go with him to the front line. I think if we are in dialogue how to finish the war, we have to demonstrate people who are decision makers what does it mean, the real war, not in Instagram, real war.
We have time for one more question. Over there? Yes?
Alina Polyakova, I'm the president and CEO of the Center for European Policy Analysis in Washington, and from Ukraine originally, so thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian people's courage. We've been talking about NATO a lot. We heard a question from a Ukrainian MP to Chancellor Scholz. We have the summit this summer. What would you like to see as a concrete outcome of the NATO summit? And do you think that the alliance, especially the United States and Germany, will provide what you're asking for? Thank you.
Різні запитання.
That's really different types of questions. Our expectations of the alliance and well, Vilnius summit was really very important. I see Jens in this room. I do appreciate everything you're doing. We've started working on that. We have the council. That's a really practical platform of discussing various things. And with respect to the aid in Vilnius summit, it was just the beginning. It was the first meeting. It was the beginning of really serious relations that led to the declaration of the G7. But there are around 30 countries that are going to sign security guarantees. We started with the three. Things like that. That's what I mentioned. The expectations of that summit were high, and it was very positive. We have real gains, and that's really specific victory. We have money, we have weapons, we have a specific time frame. That's very important. As to the invitation to join NATO, well, that's our goal. Our goal is to become a NATO member state. I believe that we deserve that. We have Jens Stoltenberg in this room, and you'd better ask him when Ukraine is going to join NATO. I think that's going to be a fair thing to do. On our part, we'll do our best to make sure that Ukraine is becoming closer to alliance. We do understand that not all countries are supportive of that. That's the decision of the alliance, and not countries are supportive of that yet. Our expectations, well, anyway, we expect strengthening of our relations, more efforts with respect to weapons and packages of weapons, air defense in particular. I think at this stage is probably the most critical thing for us, especially when it comes from the states that still hesitate whether invite us to join NATO or not.
Mr. President, thank you very much for your time and your message. And I will put that question to the next panel.
Great. Thank you.
Whoa!
Ladies and gentlemen,
How are you? Good to see you.
ladies and gentlemen, please.